Hello, my wonderful friends. I really want to start something a little different. First of all, thank you for your time, and it's always appreciated. I know that we have so many options to choose from nowadays. So if you've chosen to listen to me, whether you're hearing it or you're seeing it, I really appreciate it. But I'm really I'm in a really great place. I am internally, spiritually, emotionally in a really good place. And I wanted to share that. And I've been thinking for the past few weeks, how do I do that? How do I share just where I'm at? And and really last night I had such vivid dreams, and this morning just everything just came to me. And the reality is that I feel like I can't really share where I'm at now without kind of really starting from the beginning of my healing journey. And for me personally, so what I'll be sharing is just my own personal experience, just what allowed me to even start the healing journey to be even where I'm at today. And in reality, for me, that journey started 13 years ago. It started the day before my 30th birthday. And I remember very well what happened. And long story short, I was in a very just not healthy marriage. We were at 8 years together, and I was about 5 months pregnant with my daughter at that time, and I had my son who was already I think he was already 3. Yes, he was already 3. And my amazing stepdaughter who was 7 at the time. And this isn't really about bashing on my ex-husband or really anyone that's ever hurt me, because the reality is that people are who they are, and how we choose to react to people, whatever they do to us, whatever they bring onto our lives, the challenges, the lessons, that's really dependent of us. So really my purpose of these videos, and kind of like what I want to, I guess, really dissect, to really show in full color of how I went from being in a toxic relationship with like zero self-esteem to like where I'm at today. Really, it's just it's about my journey, the choices that I've made, the things that I've implemented to really help me along the way. But so this isn't going to be a gossipy type of video where I'm going to be dishing out, what was done, because it doesn't matter. What matters is I was hurt. I was definitely betrayed. Um, but really, it wasn't about what was being done to me from others, but it was really about what I was doing to myself. And that's really the aha moment that I had the day that I turned 30. So the day that I turned 30, I just woke up with such an epiphany. And the epiphany was I couldn't believe this was my life. Like I could not believe that I was in such a situation with someone who wasn't loving me the way that I had deserved to be loved. But and I couldn't understand it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I just kept like just asking, God, like why? Like I can't believe it. Like this can't be my life. And the day of my birthday, we minus him, we meaning the kids and I went to Disneyland. And I remember all day long just thinking I just couldn't get past the idea of like, wow, like this is for real. Like this is my reality. Like I am with someone who is not treating me right, and I don't know what to do, because I really didn't. I had no idea what to do. And mind you, like this is 8 years in, his behavior, like his pattern was like existing like from the beginning. So it's not like this was something new. It was just I couldn't understand like how it got to this point. Like, how did it come this far that I'm still like that hamster in that wheel? Like, I'm still in the same situation with this person after 8 years, and like, I don't know what to do. And I remember going home after that night and just crying. I remember how hard I started to pray. I was in such disbelief of like, I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe like this is, I never wanted this. How did I get here? Like, how did this happen? How did I allow someone to mistreat me for so long? But then at the same time, it's like there's this love for this person because there's goodness in that person, and I tend to be that kind of person that always looks for the good in people, looks for the good in the world, and really holds on to that. And not only that, but I had children. I had my son and my stepdaughter who I've always been close to and loved, and now I'm expecting another baby, and like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to walk away from that? Like that's just not the idea of a family that I ever had. And really, in reality, I never even wanted to marry this person. And the only reason why I did was because I had endured so much in that relationship that I just felt it was so unfair that I am having kids with someone and I don't get to have the same name. Really, it's what it came down to. For me, it was like I wanted the same name as my son, and of course with my daughter, and I just felt that I had earned it. Honestly, like that's how I felt. I had my son at 27, and then I had my daughter at 30. So with my son, we got married before he was born, a few months before he was born, and that was my that made sense to me at that time. That is what made sense to me, that I wanted to have the same last name as my son, that I rightfully so deserved to have that shared name, because if it were up to me, my son would have carried my name. But at least during that time, 16 years ago, that's just not what you did, really, right? So I guess I just wanted to feel somewhat connected, even though I carried him, just psychologically, it just wasn't, I guess, enough, because when you're already like in not a good place and you have like absolutely like no self-esteem and like no self-confidence, no self-love, no self-worth, um, you're kind of desperate for any kind of connection. You're kind of desperate for any kind of way to feel loved and accepted. And for me, I think that was the purpose of that marriage. It's just to be given something that would truly connect me forever with my son. And so fast forwarding to my 30th, and just having this epiphany of like of disbelief that this was the reality of my life, that as much as I loved my children and the idea of family and what I had thought I would be having as a family wasn't my reality. I just remember becoming like a functioning depressed person. I was very depressed and sad all the time, but I would still function. I would still do the mom duties, and you know, go to work and just whatever. Like that was still part of my routine, and I just remember every single day like praying so hard, like every single day, like asking the why. And I feel like at first I wasn't asking the right questions, because it was almost like I was kind of mad at God, kind of blaming him, like why, like how is this my life? Like I'm such a good person, like I'm such a good wife, I'm such a good mom, I'm such a good stepmom. Like Like how, like why is this my life? And it took me a while, and it took me a few prayers to really dig deep down inside of myself and really have a conversation with myself and like ask myself, like, am I being authentic? Am I being honest right now? Because the reality is that I had zero control over this person and how they were choosing to live out their life. And we can all lead by example, right? But that doesn't mean that people, especially the people that you may want, are going to follow. It doesn't mean that they want the same things as you do. You can continue to be that same person. You can continue to like have integrity and just be a good and kind-hearted person, but that doesn't mean that it's going to prevent from this other person to make the choices that they're choosing for themselves. And regardless of how it's going to affect you. And so those are the questions that I started to like ask myself, like just being in reality of the fact that, like, wow, I really have no control over this person. So then it made me ask myself, well, what do I have control over? Who do I have control over? And I only have control over myself. And everything that I had been wanting in this other person to change and to do right by, like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter because, again, like, I had to stop making excuses of being in a situation that wasn't fitting for me, that wasn't serving me any kind of purpose, that if anything was preventing me from being my best self. And really just taking ownership of the fact that I was keeping myself in that situation. I was the one that was continuously making the choice of staying in that relationship for as long as I did, regardless if it was with hopes of things getting better, of hopes of him changing and us having this happily ever after life. I still chose to stay day in and day out. At that point, we're talking, like I said, we're in 8 years, and really the epiphany was more of like, for me, of like, when am I going to wake up? When am I going to stop making excuses of I'm just waiting for this person to get their shit together, basically? And when am I going to start keeping myself accountable for the choices that I too am making for my life? And I had to then understand and realize that I wouldn't be the first person to divorce or separate or leave a situation, and B, nor will I be the last, because unfortunately there's a lot of bad relationships that exist, right? So I had to remember that I'm stronger than that, that I'm going to be okay, that I was going to be okay, but that I had to really take ownership of my me being an enabler, because really that's what I was. I was being an enabler by staying in that relationship. I was definitely enabling the circumstances of my life by staying and just hoping and assuming and praying that this other person would change, when in reality I was the one that needed to change, because I had to learn that can't worry about them. I can't worry about anybody in my life that isn't wanting to be a better version of themselves. Like, that's not my business at the end of the day. It's me and myself. And if what they're doing isn't bringing me joy, love, respect, isn't serving me any purpose, that is up to me to recognize that and to remove myself from that situation, regardless if I feel love for this person, regardless if, I'm sad that things didn't turn out the way that I was hoping for it to turn out. That's the whole thing, is that we have no guarantee of what, things are going to turn out to be, whether it's in a career, a relationship, just starting, just being a part of anything. Like, we have no guarantee of that, but we weren't taught to know that we have options, that know that if things don't work out, if things get toxic, if things aren't treating you the way you deserve to be treated, It's okay to leave. It's okay to remove yourself from that circumstances, from that situation, from that environment. It's okay to start new somewhere else. Like no one teaches you that, because if anything, I was taught the complete opposite. You know, my mom and my dad didn't have the healthiest relationship, and my mom fought till the end and put up with a lot of really bad, unfortunate stuff with my dad for 30 years. So, if anything, I was taught to stick it out for as long as you can, to continue to work things out, you know, to the best of your ability, even if it's like sucking you dry, even if it's at your cost, you know, like you just, that's what you do. So that's what I learned. And even though I thought I would never be like my mom, I was never going to allow that to happen. In reality, I did. And not once, but you know, a couple of times. And this, just that this scenario or this relationship was the hardest out of the past relationship. Like this one was the toughest, this one was the most challenging, the most depressing, the most, you know. But again, like on the flip side, there was a lot of good that came out of it. Not just my children, but the memories, you know, the moments. Like there was a lot of good stuff, you know, that I was really, really good at holding on to, safekeeping, so that any, or keepsake, whatever the term is, so that whenever something bad would happen, like I can go into that little space of where I kept all the good memories, you know, and the good moments, and so that I can like pull out of that and remember that and hold on to that, and have a vision of that person, but without realizing that that person isn't, like that's not the person that I, you know, that I needed him to be 24/7, you know? But again, it was everything that I was doing at that time was focusing on this other person rather than focusing on myself, because I didn't even know how to do that. You know, I didn't even know how, like, how do I even start focusing on myself? How do I even know what I'm supposed to be doing? And the thing is that through my prayers and praying a lot, I definitely every day was getting more and more clarity, and I was definitely getting more and more courage, because I was praying for courage. I was praying for courage and for and to be brave, and I was praying, you know, to get, you know, clarity and answers, you know, and on what I should be doing. And really deep down inside, I think I always knew what I needed to do. I just didn't know really how to do it. And so with my prayers, it just, they became more like just stronger and stronger and just a lot more clear. And I remember within my prayers, even though I was praying to have courage to leave the situation, and to have faith that I was going to be fine, like I was going to be more than fine, and so were my kids. At the same time, I was also praying, and manifesting my future partner, my future husband, because I never gave up on love. I never gave up on the idea of like what a family should be like, and what two people should be sharing as in a union. I just knew that I had to like give up on this particular situation, this particular relationship, in order for me to get really what I wanted and what I was deserving of. And so really, like in my prayers, like I'm asking for strength, and I'm asking for bravery, and I'm asking for courage, and I'm asking for clarity, and I'm asking, you know, for a lot of love and guidance. I was also asking, you know, for someone, you know, that is just like me, someone with a good heart, someone with good morals, someone who is going to treat me, you know, how I deserve to be treated, who's going to love my kids, who's going to be um, connected to God, you know, someone who, you know, comes from a good family, and you know, all these things. And I was just, because I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that I could be with just in a situation, you know, again, like finding myself in a situation, you know, being with someone who just wasn't loving me or seeing me the way that I had deserved to be seen and to be loved. So I somehow in my prayers, I just made it a point to make sure that that God knew that I wasn't giving up, on myself, or in knowing that there was somebody out there for me that was going to treat me how I deserve to be treated. Because again, like I never gave up on the idea of like having a family and having the kind of relationship that I've always dreamt of, that I never grew up with. And so that first year was covered in prayers, like tears, like genuinely, desperately, like humbly, authentically praying to God, praying, and just having the faith that things were going to work out, that I was going to get the courage to leave, that I knew that I was the one that needed to change my circumstances by removing myself from the situation. I was I was able to take accountability for that. I was able to then like come up with a plan, like a plan of action of like what was that going to look like. And there was a lot of unknowns. There was a lot of like I don't know, but I had to have the faith that I was going to be okay. It was all going to be fine regardless if I didn't have the exact details or the exact knowing of what was on the other side. I just knew that first thing first was I really had to have the same kind of love that I had for my kids for myself, and knowing that I needed to remove myself from that so that I can really a not have my kids around such an environment where we're just repeating cycles, where we're just like everything is just going to go back, from the start of what I grew up with, for my kids. Like I knew that I needed and wanted more for them, better for them, and I knew that they couldn't be around that 24/7. So then I had to ask myself, well, it's not just for them too. Like, well, what about me? And really, that's where again, like all these aha moments of like, I'm 30 years old. I'm, having, this my second baby, and I love my stepdaughter, and that was hard for me too, of like knowing that I had to let go of that as well, not knowing what would that mean for our relationship. Would I ever see her again? Would she remember me? What will I get to be a part of all her, her milestones? It was all these things that were in my head constantly. And again, like I just remember having to hold on to so much faith, having to like know that I wasn't going to know a lot of the answers to all those things, but that the one thing I needed to be super clear on was the fact that I had options. I had options, and to be okay to use those options, and to be okay to walk away or remove myself from something that just was not serving me or my kids, especially when I had such an idea, such like I knew crystal clear what kind of mom I wanted to be, and how I wanted to raise my kids. So I had to let go for a moment. I had to let go of like being okay with still being able to do all those things, even if it meant doing it by myself as a single mom. And and then I went through like moments of like punishment towards myself, because it's like, how can I do this? Not just to me, but to my kids. Like, how can I do this? And God, it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle because, I thought like, okay, like I know what I need to do. Like I'm gaining that courage, but then it's like these thoughts in my head of like, I can't believe you did this. Like, I can't believe you're in this situation. And just really fighting against, just myself, fighting against myself, and finding grace through all this, and forgiveness, and like kindness. And those things have like, they took forever. I mean, it's still, a progress, but I mean, I'm sorry, a process. But even like the smallest amount, like it's crazy how even if we have like the smallest amount of just like self-love and self-worth and encouragement, like how that can get us so far. So far, because it'll allow us to move out of the space or the circumstance that we are currently in that isn't serving us. So even having like the smallest amount gives us so much hope and so much strength, to just keep moving forward. And now, from having that epiphany at 30, it still took me a year and 4 months to officially leave that situation. I had already started to emotionally check out. I was emotionally beginning the process of loving and worrying more about myself and my kids, and worrying less and less about him, and really focusing the energy on just like loving myself. And even then, it still took me a year and 4 months to physically leave the situation. And of course, I'm pregnant, I'm hormonal, like I'm all over the place, right? So I have my daughter in November. And again, like you fall into these false illusions of what it could be. Maybe there's a chance, like maybe this time, it'll be different, maybe, whatever. You sell yourself on all these stories, because it's easy to stay, right? It's easy to stay, like why disrupt your home life? Why disrupt your children's home life? Like why leave, when you have everything right there for you? Like why? So maybe, just maybe, this person will get it together and will change and things will be different, right? And so there's a part of me that was truthfully like holding on to that idea. And again, like I'm being hormonal, I'm being told the right things are being said to me, and certain actions are being shown. And so like when you love, and when you want to see the best in people, you see the best in people. And that's really the choices that I was making, even though I had already started that whole journey, that whole mental process within myself of like knowing what to do, right? I was still, I guess, giving this person and the situation the benefit of the doubt. And things were actually going well for a long time, and I thought, whoa, maybe, right? Like maybe, until they weren't, because like people are going to show you who they truly are. It's only a matter of time. The truth always prevails. Um and I definitely believe that God has my back, and I was protected by the universe. And eventually, with time, um the truth surfaced again. And really, at that point, I was angry. Like I had been mad before, but I was just really, really like angry. And this is in October of the following year, so I'm already 31, and now it's October. And man, I remember I had never been that upset, like, like I've gotten, betrayed by this person over and over and over and over, right? Like you'd think, like, what's the difference? But there was just something different about it this time around. Maybe I was also mad at myself because, maybe like I should have just, left when I knew, like instantly, a year ago or whatever. Like who knows? All I know is that I was so angry that day, and I was so next level, like seeing red, I was ready to hurt someone. And when I felt that rage like never before, I scared myself. And I think I scared him too. I think he told me once that he had never been afraid of me like until that day. But I was afraid. I was so afraid. I saw red, and luckily, like I was able to snap out of it. And at that point, I'm like, okay, that's it, done. We are done. Like no more of this. Like we are out of here. And I did. That was the day. That was the day that I said no more. I couldn't believe it. It had driven me to the point of rage, and just I couldn't even recognize myself, and I was really afraid of myself and my actions. So, and really, I just needed to be smart. I needed to be smart and make sure that I wasn't going to ever do anything that would jeopardize my life in any way, or being the mom of my kids. And so I just had to take accountability for mentally, emotionally, like where I was at that time. And like I was either going to do something or not. And I did. And I remember I told him that was it. Like I'm done. I know I've said it before millions of times, but this time it's reals. And I remember I grabbed my kids, I packed some stuff, and I left. I went to a girlfriend's house who I am still to this day extremely thankful for. And I remember just it didn't even matter. I didn't even like it didn't even matter at that point. I just figured, oh, I'm gonna figure it out. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. And back then, I was not making it. I was a stylist, but I was not making the kind of money that I later on eventually ended up making. So I was really like not sure what the heck I was gonna do, but I just had my faith. So I left, went to the girlfriend's house. She took me in, and long story short, by the end of that week, I had found a small little one bedroom apartment for my kids and I. And I remember I had the blessings of other family members who, at that time, were not legally family members of mine. I'll tell that story later, but at that point, they were just friends, really, really good friends that loved me enough that wanted to help me. They wanted to help my situation, so they helped me move into my little place, and that was it. I was so done, and I never went back, and so now it's a new me. Now it's a whole new chapter, and that was the beginning of many beginnings, many beginnings. So I don't know who needed to hear this. I don't know if this helped in any way, shape, or form, but I know that we all got to start from somewhere. So that was my beginning. I had to really take a lot of accountability for why I was allowing for my life to be what it was. And I had to forgive myself, give myself some grace and kindness, and allow myself to have the strength and the faith, knowing that I needed to do what I needed to do, regardless of not knowing what that was going to look like, but just having the courage and the faith and the bravery to just remove myself from something that just was not serving me any good whatsoever. So sometimes we just need to take that first step, whatever it is in your journey. Like sometimes you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to have a clear picture of what is it going to look like on the other side once you take those first steps. You just need to have some kind of self-love, self-worth, knowing that this isn't that your current circumstance or current situation, if it's not serving your purpose, that's not what you were meant, where you were meant to be, but take the accountability of like, so what can you do to make it better? And if we're continuing to rely on others, then we're going to continue to stay in the situations that we're in. So we have to be open and honest with ourselves and really take accountability for, is this something that I can do? Like, is there something I can do to remove myself from the situation to better the situation? And if that's what the answer is, then that's what the answer is. And once we have come face faced with that, what are we going to do about that? So I hope that this one little part of the beginning of my journey has helped you in any way, or at least made you feel that you're definitely not alone. Like this has been an ongoing journey, and of course this stems back from so much of like my childhood and my parents and my dad, but really I just want to focus right now on just for myself, like the actions that I started to take for myself the day that I decided that I needed and I deserved more. Even if it took me over a year to physically remove myself out of a situation, it all started with the emotional and the spiritual part that I needed to feel connected and feel worthy and loved, and really having those conversations with myself and having them with God, and really being, faith driven, and really relying on my prayers, and knowing that, that I had to have faith that things were going to get better. And as they did, so slowly but surely. Thank you so much for just taking the time to listen. And I will talk to you really soon. Bye.